One of the great ironies of modern relationships. The thing we do to protect the connection is often the very thing that destroys it. We go quiet to keep the peace. We swallow the hard truth to avoid the argument. We choose safety, the safety of familiar and comfortable, the unchallenged, because we think that's what love requires. That's what it looks like to be a good partner, not to rock the boat. And slowly, without us deciding it, that safety becomes a trap. I want to tell you a story about someone I know. I changed her name, she asked me to. But everything else is as close to the truth as she could bring herself to tell me. And when she told it, I sat with it for a long time before I knew I had to share it here. This is the story of a woman I'll call Nadia and her husband, Daniel, and a dinner that cracked something open. Not cleanly, not easily, but really, in the way that only truth can. Nadia and Daniel had been married for 9 years. By most measures, the measures other people use, the one that shows up on the outside, they were doing fine. An apartment they both loved, a dog named Roscoe, friends they saw on weekends. They laughed at the same things. They had built a life that looked, from the outside, solid and warm and real. And it was, mostly. But somewhere along around the year 4 or 5, Nadia had started to feel like Daniel didn't see her anymore. Not in the dramatic sense. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't checked out in the obvious ways. He came home. He asked her about her day. He remembered her coffee order. But the asking had become routine. The listening had become polite. And she had started to feel like she was living alongside someone rather than truly with them. She tried to say something once around year 5. She said, I feel like we have been a bit disconnected lately. Daniel looked up from his laptop and said, What do you mean? We literally just had dinner together. And she said, You're right. Never mind. That was the moment the trap was built. Not by Daniel, not even by Nadia, really. It was built by a calculation she made in that moment, completely unconsciously, that said, the cost of this conversation is higher than the cost of staying quiet. So she went quiet. And then she went quiet again and again. Each time telling herself she was protecting something. Protecting the mood, protecting Daniel's feelings, protecting the marriage. What she didn't see, what almost none of us see when we are inside it, is that the protection was the problem. Every silence that was meant to hold them together was actually pulling them apart, one thread at a time. She wasn't avoiding conflict, she was avoiding connection. She just didn't know the difference yet. Fast forward to year 9. They are at a dinner. Nothing special, just a Friday. Daniel's talking about a difficult week at work, a colleague causing problems, a deadline. Nadia is listening, nodding, present. And then, without planning it, she hears herself say, Can I tell you something? Daniel looks up. Yeah, of course. She pauses. Because she knows that once she says it, she can't unsay it. She's about to hand him something fragile and ask him to hold it carefully with no guarantee that he will. 4 years of silence are pressing against that pause. But she's tired. 9 years tired, and somewhere in the tiredness she has realized that the thing she's been protecting isn't the relationship, it's the illusion of one. She says, I don't think you really hear me anymore. I don't mean it as an attack. I've been feeling invisible for a while. I'm here, but I'm not really present to you. I've been sitting on that for so long, I'm not sure I know how to say it right. But I needed you to know. The table goes quiet. Now, if this were a film, this is where you would see Daniel's face soften. He'd reach across the table and say, I had no idea. Tell me everything. There'd be swelling strings, fate to a better marriage. But that's not happens. What happens is Daniel frowns, sets down his fork, says, Invisible? Nadia, I'm right here every single night. I don't know what else you want from me. And here it is again, the trap. But from the other side now. Because Daniel's response, in its own way, is completely sincere. He is here every night. He has shown up. By every measure, he knows how to count. The tragedy is that he's been counting the wrong things: proximity, logistics, presence on paper. And he has no idea. I'm not talking about physically here, she says. Then what are you talking about? Because it sounds like nothing I do is ever enough. That's not what I said. It's what it feels like. And now the conversation has shifted. It's no longer about her truth, it's about his defensiveness. The original thing she needed to say is getting buried. And Nadia can feel the old reflex rising, the never mind, the retreat, the return to safety. But this time, she doesn't go back. She says quietly, I'm not trying to attack you. I'm trying to tell you I've been lonely inside this marriage, and that's really hard to say out loud. A long silence. Daniel looks at the table and then he says something she doesn't expect. I think I have been lonely too. Here's what the dinner was not. It was not the breakthrough. It was not the turning point where everything got better. They didn't drive home holding hands, talking for hours, waking up next morning renewed. What actually happened was they drove home mostly in silence, raw, exposed. The way you feel after saying something you can't take back. Daniel was defensive for another day or two, cycling back through the conversation, looking at where he had been wronged. Nadia second-guessed herself constantly. She had said it wrong. Had she been unfair? Had she broken something that didn't need to be broken? There was a version of her that genuinely wished she'd stayed quiet. But here's what she told me, and this is the part that I keep coming back to. She said, the silence after was different. It was still uncomfortable, but it was honest. For the first time in years, I knew exactly where we were, and that was terrifying. But it was also the first time I'd felt real in a marriage in a very long time. The trap, she realized, hadn't just been keeping her from saying things. It had been keeping her from being known. And you cannot feel truly connected to someone who only knows a carefully edited version of you. You might feel safe, but safe and connected are not the same thing. They can look identical from outside and feel completely different from the inside. 3 weeks later, Daniel comes home and said unprompted, I've been thinking about what you said, and I think you're right. I stopped really showing up a while ago and I didn't notice. That was not a resolution. It was a beginning. Slow, uncomfortable, some weeks feeling like no progress at all. They started couples coaching a month later. They are still in it, still figuring it out. The trap took years to build. It won't dismantle over a single dinner. The safety connection trap is one of the quietest relationship ironies I know. We built it with the best intentions. Every silence is an act of love, or at least we tell ourselves it is. I'm protecting him. I'm protecting us. I'm keeping the peace. Genuinely feels like love in the short term. Even it looks like it. But what we are really protecting is the version of the relationship where we never have to be fully seen, never have to risk the rejection of showing up as our complete, uncomplicated, needy, honest selves. And the cruelest part of this trap is the safer you make it, the lonelier it becomes. Because safety without truth isn't intimacy. It's just a very comfortable arrangement between two people who have stopped meeting each other. Daniel thought he was in a stable marriage. He was counting the right things in the wrong measures. Nadia thought she was protecting the marriage. She was hollowing it out by unspoken one dinner at a time. Neither of them were villains. They were just caught in the trap. The way most of us are, without knowing there was a trap to begin with. The way out isn't elegant. Nadia's dinner proves that. The way out is a single uncomfortable sentence said out loud to the person who needs to hear it, then surviving what happens next. So that's Nadia and Daniel. I don't know how their story ends. I'm not even sure they do either yet. But I think about that moment at the table when she almost said, never mind for the 100th time, and didn't. She chose the truth over safety, and everything got harder before it had any chance of getting better. Here's what I want to leave you with today. you're if you are in a relationship where you have been choosing quiet to keep things smooth, ask yourself honestly, are you safe or are you just trapped? Because they can feel exactly the same thing from inside until one day they don't. The mess on the other side of honesty is survivable. The slow disappearing act of staying silent is something else entirely. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time.